Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Adam Lang.
Hello, Michael.
Adam, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, which are the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, which is one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and our favourite story. So let's jump into it. What do you think was the biggest story this week?
Big economic news this week, Michael, with big implications. First, the International Monetary Fund brought its attention to Australia this week, forecasting economic growth would drop from 3.7% this year to 1.7% next financial year, and said there's actually only a narrow path for us to avoid recession. Second, the Governor of the US Federal Reserve, Christopher Waller, told everybody to take a deep breath after the only slightly better than expected inflation figures in America last week, saying the central bank is far from done rising interest rates. Third, the ABS revealed labour data that was well ahead of economists' expectations as the October unemployment rate dropped to 3.4%. That's equal to a 48-year record. Hours worked and wages grew too. That is a lot of exceptionally good news, which is likely to lead Australian interest rates higher in the months ahead.
Yeah, for me, the biggest story this week, Adam, was the G20, or more specifically, the thawing of the relationship between Australia and our biggest trading partner, China. Because, of course, Australia's been frozen out for about 3 years now, with the world's second biggest economy slapping pretty crippling tariffs on $20 billion worth of Australian exports, things like coal and wine. Ministers' calls to their Chinese counterparts have been going unanswered. This week, a breakthrough, a half-hour sit-down between China's President Xi Jinping and our own Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the first meeting between a PM and the Chinese leader since 2016. Mr. Albanese told President Xi that Australia and China have had their differences, and while we don't resile from our values, it's an important bilateral relationship. For his part, the Chinese leader said the two countries have had difficulties in recent years, which he doesn't want to see. It is a significant thawing in the relationship between the two countries, not just for the hugely important economic impact, but also for the security situation in our own region. Big, big story.
Massive, actually. Really good story too.
Most remarkable story this week. Can I suggest the massive week for US politics? First of all, we had the midterm election results. In the lead up to the polls, all the talk had been about a red wave of Republican support. It just didn't happen. The Democrats retained control of the Senate. The Republicans did win the House of Reps, and Nancy Pelosi resigned as Speaker. It means a return to divided government. It'll see President Joe Biden and the Democrats negotiating to implement their policy agenda. But a lot of the candidates handpicked by Donald Trump failed in their bid. He was expecting that red wave to give him a launch pad for his 2024 presidential campaign. He still launched that campaign this week, but it's a very different environment to the one he would have been expecting, with even the Murdoch papers abandoning him. Trumpty Dumpty was one headline. One of the standout performers for the Republicans at the midterms was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Many consider him to be a more palatable nominee for the party in the presidential elections. It's going to be ugly. Remarkable.
Indeed it is, Michael. And in Australia and power supply, AGL is Australia's largest greenhouse emitter and owns coal and gas-fired power stations alongside a retail energy division with more than 4 million customers. This week, through fierce advocacy and lobbying, Mike Cannon-Brookes was able to skillfully use his 11.28% shareholding in AGL to win his battle for control of the board after shareholders voted up all 4 of his proposed directors. Shareholders also approved a plan for AGL to exit coal-fired power generation by 2035. That's 10 years earlier than originally planned, and spend $20 billion adding renewable assets. Remarkable.
Yeah, sure is. All right, sleeper story, one that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves, or is going to be a bit bigger down the track. What is it for you?
Michael, the food delivery market is a lean margin business, and this week Deliveroo Australia went into administration, unfortunately. They started operations here in 2015, grew a network to include more than 12,000 partner restaurants, 15,000 riders and 120 staff. But in recent years, Uber Eats has dominated the market, and rivals Menulog and DoorDash have also overtaken Deliveroo, pushing it into 4th place. Amongst the delivery services that remain, there is a big sleeping element about what other food delivery businesses can survive. As has already happened with Deliveroo Australia this week, thousands of restaurants, riders and staff could be affected.
Yeah, look, for me, the sleeper story this week is actually to do with cryptocurrency. And granted, the collapse of the FTX crypto exchange has been very high profile, billions of dollars lost by about 1 million customers, including 30,000 Australians. The sleeper part of this is the potential now for Australia to lead the world in introducing regulations for the sector. The federal government has committed to introducing legislation next year to fix that lack of transparency and consumer protection in the crypto market. It is a sleeper story because Australia may end up leading the world on these regulations.
And that would be a great thing.
Yeah, certainly would. All right, favourite story of the week, Adam. We'll keep this one short because to me it's pretty simple. This week we saw the launch of the Artemis mission after 2 previous cancellations. That rocket is sending an empty crew capsule into a wide orbit around the moon. Then the capsule will return to Earth next month. It is 50 years since the end of the Apollo program, and if Artemis is a success, we could have people back on the moon as early as 2025. Long-term plan, set up a permanent base camp on the moon, provide a stepping stone to a Mars mission to send astronauts there in the next 20 years or so. A lot of commercial opportunities here, including for Australia, with the Australian Space Agency coordinating local businesses, including projects like an Aussie lunar rover. How cool is that?
Great story. And for me, Michael, my favourite special mention on Tuesday this week, the world's population hit 8 billion, and I'm pleased to be one of them.
Yeah, me too. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. And don't forget to check out our new podcast, How Do They Afford That?, featuring Canna Campbell, the founder of Sugar Mama TV, all about making your money work harder for you. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.